Hey, what's up, everybody? Yellowturtle here with my co-host Beef. Welcome to the third episode of the LUKSOfam Podcast, brought to you by Keys. The LUKSOfam Podcast is meant to be a short and informational podcast where we provide some takes on the latest LUKSO news in the space. Today we're going to be giving a surface level talk on relayer services, what they are, how might they work, and why are they important. We're also going to discuss some hidden alpha that some of the LUKSO community might have missed. Beef, how you feeling today?
Honestly, kind of tired, but I'm going to muster up the energy here. We got some really exciting things to talk about, so let's just proceed.
Let's proceed indeed. So do you want to kick us off by kind of going over what a relay execution is?
Sure. So the technical definition of a relay execution service, I guess, it would enable the users to interact with smart contracts on the blockchain. Here's the key: without needing native tokens to pay for the transaction fees. This will allow a way better onboarding experience for new users to begin to use cryptocurrencies and blockchain.
Right. And I'm thinking about all the times that you've gone to make a transaction, whether to buy an NFT or to trade something or pick up some more looks, and all of a sudden gas prices are maybe even more than what you're transacting, right? Or at least a significant percentage. And then you're in a gas war, and you're all of a sudden you're waiting till 3:30 in the morning to make a $10 transaction, so it doesn't cost you $80. Those days of that lifestyle is not going to onboard the masses. People don't want to do that. It's to the same degree of if you went to a Macy's or JCPenney or some big brand store and went to go pay with their credit card and they charged you a $60 credit card fee. It just wouldn't happen, man. You wouldn't go back, you wouldn't buy that product, and you wouldn't go back. And so this is kind of where relayers step in, right? Like in the Web 2 parallel is that it's essentially companies or yourself paying for your gas fees, your credit card transaction beforehand. That way you're not paying for it at the time of when you're actually transacting and trying to make this purchase. So it's a really big concept that people kind of don't really talk about enough. I'd never really heard this kind of echo chamber of relayer services in the Ethereum community as much. I'm sure it's there. I'm sure people are working on it as well. But I feel like this has been a pretty big staple of the LUKSO project since the very beginning. So on that point, talk about some relayer services that are being developed in the LUKSO ecosystem. Over the summer, during the LUKSO Build-Up #1 hackathon, implying that there might be a number 2, 3, and 4 later down the road. But in Build-Up #1, there was a relayer services category to create relay options for people building on LUKSO or people using LUKSO. So the first place winner of that category was actually Vlad, who is a longtime Keys member, been here since the early days and helped us out with a few things. Now he's working on Universal Page with Jake Prinz, and they are absolutely killing it. But so the transaction relayer services was actually a staking provider. So you could stake your licks, receive an APR back, which was 7%, which included a 10% fee already. And then you could use that staked licks, you could use the rewards that you're earning from your staked pool to pay for your gas fees when you're transacting down the road. So you're never actually having to pay gas at the time. You're actually using your staked licks to cover that fee, to cover those fees for yourself well into the future.
Yeah, so what I thought was super awesome about the transaction relayer services by Vlad was you could set up via smart contracts for other ups or universal profiles to utilize your staked pool to pay for their gas. So that's pretty awesome, I think. And I think a lot of businesses can take from this model, kind of like you said, just to extend that to their customers and to their users to make sure that they cover that gas, which opens up tons more possibilities and makes the experience way better for the consumer.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of brings us into the second place as well, because it's a relayer service, but it kind of takes a different spin on it, which is nice. And I think that there will be multiple options in the future for for relay services. So the second one was actually a way of earning, air quotes around earning your gas, in the sense that you can do different things, kind of like how Coinbase does to get like $5 in this coin or $10 in this coin by installing this app or watching this ad or filling out this survey, things of that nature, to kind of gamify the earning process by like offering these badges and these rewards for participating and interacting with the app. And you could also set it up a subscription fee as well. So you could be paying $15 a month, and that'll be paying your gas fees, right? Because that if a million people are paying $15 a month, $15 million, odds are that there's $15 million worth of transactions under that company, probably pretty low. So that's how this company would make money, and they'd be covering gas fees for people. And this is actually a solution that Fabian brought up and kind of recommended. I forget when this was. It was either during one of his talks in this winter, or it was during the hackathon when they were doing office hours and different types of informational sessions during that time. And he brought up that we live in a subscription-based world, which, whether people like it or not, it's the truth, right? We have subscriptions for Spotify, for Hulu, for Netflix, for Amazon, for all these different things. And so it just only makes sense that a subscription model would kind of fall into place in this Web3 realm, right? And you'd just be paying a small fee per month, and then it would cover all of your transactions on chain. And then you would never have to deal with the hiccup or the hoop to jump through of waiting for gas fees to come down, finding the right time to transact. Because for a lot of degens in the space, that's fine. We can stay up till 4 a.m. to make a transaction to buy a JPEG, but my grandmother is not doing that. She might be up at 4 a.m, but she's waking up. She's the early bird that's catching that worm. So she's not she's not waiting for gas prices. She won't even be able to understand what a gas price is, versus just make this one-time transaction, pay with Apple Pay, you get this physical good, and your digital good is in your universal profile. Sounds nice, easy, and clean. And transaction and relayer services are going to be a massive part of this onboarding step, and getting people past those first few hiccups and transacting on the blockchain.
Your grandma's not slamming Mountain Dews and live streaming on Twitch at like 3 a.m.?
I wish. I have the coolest grandmother in the world.
Hey, I did want to touch on something that I thought was pretty cool. The badges. It kind of reminded me of Fitbit. It reminded me of Fitbit. When you reach certain milestones, you get that badge. And what they did was they took it to like that next level. And each badge that you get via earning, watching those videos, taking surveys, installing apps, potentially like Coinbase or something else, it gave you specific bonuses like multipliers. So including relayer credits back. And I thought that was kind of cool. The more and more they develop that idea, the more and more engagement I believe you're going to get from the users. So it's really cool to see somebody in Web3 using the LUKSO standards to take advantage of that and push something to market.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And there's definitely a lot of opportunities there, right? There's opportunity for companies to pay for ad space, right? Or informational videos to be shown on their platform, which then in turn grants these users access to these relayer credits and things of that nature. So like there's a full circular economy that's kind of being developed with that idea, which is really cool to see. Really, really cool to see. But all right, so to kind of transition a little bit, it is Alpha Alert. And do we have some alpha for you. This past week on Twitter, there's been little breadcrumbs, little hints that LUKSO may have some ties to some pretty big companies. Beef, do you want to get into that?
Definitely. So we're just presenting the breadcrumbs and then we're speculating on the connections.
Absolutely.
Nowhere specifically is all of this stuff 100% confirmed. But when you analyze it all and you kind of do the connection that we're doing, it's pretty convincing. So the first bit of background on the alpha, Eric Redmond, he used to be the global director of technology innovation with Nike. Then he was the co-founder of the Tech Innovation Office. And most recently, he's the senior director of the Metaverse Studio Lead Tech Innovation Office. So with that background in mind, about 3 months ago, he reposted on LinkedIn what Marjorie had said, which was kind of a reflection looking back over the past few years, where she pointed out some of the advisors that had assisted LUKSO, obviously supporting it and kind of weighing in, giving their advice. Eric said, "It's not only about the tech, it's about the vision. And this is a vision years ahead of its time. But that was 5 years ago, and that time is now." So that's Eric with his background saying a sentence like that.
Yeah, and the LUKSO team is always talking about timing as well, which makes me very bullish on what's happening and what's being said. So the next bit of alpha that we can get into is Artifact. Artifact, is people know, is a part of Nike. Artifact has also always been a project to talk about timing. Same with LUKSO. And there has been a little bit of a relationship in the past between the two. Artifact did do one little drop on the L14 testnet, and Fabian and Samuel Cardillo, who is the CTO of Artifact, have gone back and forth playfully on Twitter in the past. But somebody brought up recently on May 4th, May the 4th be with you, that if Artifact were to pivot chains, that they would need multiple criteria. So Fabian writes, and I quote, "I think that's better discussed in a call at some point, but LUKSO will likely check all boxes soon, plus the ones that even current Ethereum ecosystem doesn't check. Gasless transactions," which brings us full circle of what we talked about earlier with relayer services. Easy onboarding plus user experience. So that's something that we've talked about in previous podcasts with signing up for a universal profile via email and Magic Link. Upgradable security, so that goes into the universal profile ERC725 smart contract account and how you can write future smart contracts to that universal profile and always have the latest security. And then the next bullet point is brand profile / accounts that are manageable. So that'd be a brand universal profile that they can customize to their liking, customize security, customize storage, customize assets, things of that nature. Improved token standards. We all know that Fabian is the author of the ERC20 and has said in the past that he thinks it was kind of a hacky way to put it together, and that really the reasons why he chose to start LUKSO was so that he could have an organized ecosystem with very coherent and well thought out standards. The last thing that he talks about is just the thousands of things that we can build now with LUKSO standards compared to on Ethereum, where the standards are not quite as organized, according to Fabian.
Yeah, what I thought is cool, he kind of touches on the brand profiles and accounts that are manageable. Remember, like, what's important about this is that on chain, it'll be much more easily identifiable to see who's issuing which assets, which is a tongue twister right there. But like currently, you'll see like contract deployers, and what we're doing here is we're making it easier for the user to read and to see the chain of where this originated from, which is nice because currently, I believe on Ethereum, when you launch a new project, you have to do a new contract. So it's not necessarily stemming from the same overarching like owner. It's not clear in that regard.
For sure. So that's two pieces of alpha between the relationships with LUKSO, Nike, and Artifact. And then there was another one on May 5th. So the next day, so the day after the last one that we just talked about with Artifact and Samuel Cardillo, Dichotomy.Swoosh, who is the head of tokenomics for Dotswoosh, which is another Nike project, tweets, "Universal profile equals convenience. Verifiable ownership of assets equals convenience. Representing identity digitally and physically equals convenience. Ability to trade digital assets equals convenience. Convenience, period." And then the president of Artifact tweeted back at him, "When convenience store?" So that's huge. That's a huge breadcrumb to me, because head of tokenomics saying first line, universal profile equals convenience. that's something that we've been preaching, and LUKSO has been preaching since the very beginning, is the user experience, the convenience of it all. Marjorie brought it up in her last podcast talking about how easy it was to buy something on DMAT, how easy it was to create a universal profile, sign in, pay with Apple Pay. Everything was transferred, no gas. It all made too much sense, right? To me, it makes too much sense that they are hinting at something big. There's rumors that there are Nike executives on LUKSO's board. We went over in the last podcast when we talked about LUKSO's ties to Chanel. And there are other big brands that are rumored to have NDAs. Again, this is all speculation. This is just me and Beef talking into the void and hyping ourselves up. But these breadcrumbs are definitely leaving a trail, right? Wouldn't you agree, Beef?
For sure. I just wanted to touch on Benito. I'm not really sure if that's how you pronounce it. And Marjorie are great
Benoit.
friends. Benoit. Forgive my ignorance. Benoit and Marjorie are great friends, and they have been for years. They've posted in the past, and they've gone out to different events and like had lunch and just posted some really cool pictures. So we know that they have a close relationship.
Absolutely. And yeah, Benoit commented on Marjorie's haircut the other day in her latest podcast, which we covered in the second episode of the LUKSOfam. And so lastly, the last little piece of alpha is an Instagram story from the Dotswoosh account, which says that they'll be unveiling their marketplace in coming months. Stay tuned. So that's really cool. That's definitely something that is possible, more than possible on LUKSO. And Beef, am I mistaken that Dotswoosh originally said that they were going to be on Polygon, or was that another part of Nike that was kind of starting a Web3 project?
No, you're correct, and you're thinking Dotswoosh did launch some stuff on Polygon.
Right. And I've personally never used Polygon a ton. I've probably only used it once or twice. I've mostly transacted on Ethereum. But from what I've heard, and I'm not trying to diss any project, I've just heard that the user experience of Polygon isn't up to par. And it's not super friendly by any means. It's similar to what we have. It's no worse than what's in the space right now, but that's not the standard that we should be abiding by, right? And that's definitely something that LUKSO prides itself on, is the user interface, user experience. So that could be a large factor into their decisions, right? Because if you want to onboard a bunch of sneakerheads or a bunch of maybe an older demographic of people that are Nike customers into the Web3 space, you're going to have to make it as easy as possible. 1, maybe 2, I would argue not 3 steps, right? Like it's got to be as minimal steps as possible to get people on the blockchain transacting digital asset in the universal profile, physical asset on the way to their house. Bada bing, bada boom. No extra steps, no writing down a 12-word seed phrase, no setting up a MetaMask and all of these things. It needs to be as simple as possible. And I think that there's a real trail of breadcrumbs that's leading us to believe LUKSO and Nike could have a relationship in the future.
Yeah, and Benoit actually tweeted before we started recording this another breadcrumb that we've talked about in previous episodes, last episode, where he spoke to it'd be best if they gave the user the ability to pay with their fiat, because that would eliminate the need, again, for using the native token. And we know that Marjorie had spoken about using Apple Pay to buy things off of DMAT. I think something similar could be applied towards Dotswoosh, the marketplace potentially built on LUKSO.
Oh, yeah. It's almost 100% the future, right? Like, in order to onboard the masses of people, they got to be familiar with the currency as well. That's definitely a huge step, right? If you had told my grandmother right now to go buy Ether or Licks, she would be thoroughly confused, and I would not blame her. But if I said, just go buy this on this store, and then underneath the scenes, or behind the scenes rather, your fiat is going through some exchange and turning into Licks, which is buying it on the blockchain, which is then confirmed and then transferred out. And all of these technical things are happening on the flip side. but you don't see it. The customer does not see it. That will be absolutely massive for this onboarding step.
Let's announce the 3 first-round winners of the Keys AI Generation Contest.
Yes, dude. What a great contest. Thank you to everyone for submitting your AI images. We got a good amount of submissions. We didn't expect to get that many, right? We weren't running a monetary prize. This was just meant to be a fun little contest in between the start of testnet and mainnet, just to keep everyone kind of preoccupied and keep the spirits up during this time. So the first 3 winners of the Keys AI Image Generation Contest were Malozzi, which shout out to Malozzi. I've met him a few times in New York City for NFT NYC. Great guy, fun to hang with, just a really positive vibe in the space. So thank you for your submission. It was amazing. He also added some little Photoshop work in there, so that was really cool to see. Add a little LUKSO tag and things of that nature. The second first round winner was @mayo_NFT on Twitter. And dude, his submission was so sick. It was like a evolution of the Animus. It kind of looked like a Pokemon Mewtwo character with these pink glowing stripes on it and like a pink electricity at the bottom. Just a really, really amazing submission, and really showed what you can do with the power of AI and making these really, really cool images. And then the third winner is another Keys OG, Jack Grills, aka Cookin', who happened to cook up an AI steak that looked absolutely delicious. It looked so real. Like, I don't know, man. It just blows my mind that you can make food look that real through AI. And then it had this pink smoke and steam with pink pills on the plate and things of that nature. And also the steak was obviously pink inside, right? He knows how to make a steak. That's Jack Grills. So 3 amazing submissions. Thank you to everyone who did join. We'll definitely be running something similar in the future. But for now, definitely go to the Keys Twitter, find that tweet, vote for which one you like the best, vote for all 3. Doesn't really matter. And if you're getting intrigued and you want to start playing around with AI, feel free to join the Keys Discord. We have an AI generation channel that you can use the Midjourney bot there and create with each other. And since it's a smaller community, you can actually look at what people are making, look at what prompts they're using and why, and have this conversation to start to learn how to use these AI tools to your advantage. So again, thank you so much to everyone that joined. It's been a really fun competition, and the voting for the overall winner will be open for the next week. And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining in. Beef, you want to close it out?
Hell yeah. So I just want to remind everybody, none of this is financial advice. It's just 2 dudes talking about what we love.
All right, everyone. On that note, thank you for tuning in. Thank you. This has been the LUKSOfam Podcast. I'm your host, Yellowturtle, my co-host, Beef, and we'll see you next week.